Okay, cool.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, come dive into the open minds where you can broaden your perspectives, expand your horizons, and open your eyes to a reality never thought possible. Just remember, once you open that door, there's no going back. I am your host, Robbie Diesel. This is the Open Mind Show. And tonight I have returning guest, Matt Landman. Welcome back to the show, man.
What's up? Thank you so much for having me on again. I really appreciated the first time. And I was thinking about who I was then, which wasn't that long ago. But damn, I'm changing fast because I'm not that same person that I was because I remember that day actually, that day specifically. So cheers.
Absolutely, man. Change does happen fast with us, around us. I can personally attest to that because I got two little ones, and it just seems like it happens in a flash of an eye. And I'm like, wait a minute, I got a 6 and a 3 year old now. But yeah, man, I think it was like either a little bit over or a little bit under a year ago that I had you back on. And for those of you who didn't know, or some of you who tuned in, we had you on and we talked about geoengineering or chemtrails or solar radiation management. It goes by many names. It's basically weather modification, that they're spraying stuff in the sky, tinkering with UV lights, weather. It's not just one tool application. They're doing many different things with it. So just to refresh anybody, but tonight I brought you back on because I wanted to talk about something that you're deep into that pretty much correlates with geoengineering, and that's cell towers, 5G. So
Oh, great.
why don't you dive into that a little bit and kind of give everybody like a starter on that, or like a rollout plan on what that is, cell towers, and what we're getting ready to talk about.
Oh, cool. I didn't even know that's terrific. I would love to do a show on cell towers, and I feel that I'm very much one of the best people qualified to talk about it. I'm not necessarily because I'm like an electrical engineer, but I do wear many hats, and I'm very authentic, and I take this one very seriously. So I've done like a lot of in-depth investigation and research, and then I started this EMF clothing line, and so I'm like front lines with it. It's wild
Mm.
the shoes that I've filled, honestly. Like it's interesting to just like look back because I never thought I'd even have this. Like I'm answering people all day long with their questions on smart meters and stuff, and I'm like, I'm proud to be in the position. Yeah, thank you so much. So, anyways, yeah, cell towers. All right, they used to be on the hills. We used to drive by, and they used to be on the hills over there, very far away. And they weren't all up in our faces. They weren't a thing, a conversation, even when I was first having phones in my life and stuff. Like literally, they were never like this. So I have a website, actualactivists.com. And on there, I have a section for 5G. And in there, it's very in depth research. So if you're looking to stop a cell tower from being put up in your neighborhood, or you want to bring information forward to your community mayor or whatever, town council or whatever, there's amazing resources on there. Highly recommend downloading some PDFs from that web page. I find it to be the best resource there. And one of them that I'll start off with so I don't forget, and this is a great way to start the conversation, is the research. So the National Institute of Health, the NIH, they did their own study. This is like almost a decade ago now, but it was when 4G LTE was rolling out, and LTE stands for long-term evolution, and 4G LTE basically means 5G. So some people are like, "Oh, I don't have 5G on my phone. I got 4G LTE." It's similar,
Okay.
right? It's the
It
same
was it
thing.
like the beta, like the testing?
Exa- yeah, exactly. And then 5G is a broad word too. There's high band, low band, mid band. Depends on your phone,
Mm.
depends on your country, your service, all that sort of stuff. Where you're at, how many phones are around you, because it really works on how many phones are around you. Um, and now the cell phones are becoming little cell towers in this 5G network because of the new tech. It's totally different, but we're going to just talk about the cell towers for now. So the National Institute of Health, when they did this research study, they were finding that they thought there was a statistically significant suicide rate amongst their utility workers that are like working for the state and installing these cell tower
Really?
utility workers, installation and maintenance. Right. And the studies in there, right there, easy to find, National Institute of Health suicide worker case study. And what they did is they did a nested case study where they studied like a group of random workers, right? I guess it was like 1,000 or something like that. They studied this group of random people to see if their hypothesis is accurate, because they were finding a lot of people were committing suicide, and they were like, wait, is it because they're working on the cell towers? So they did their own study prompted by them, the National
Okay, the
Institute of Health.
workers. Yeah, yep.
Yeah. And they found 10% in the short time frame where they were following these people. I
Mhm.
mean, like in the study, random anonymous study, in this short time frame, 10% killed themselves. And they were
Wow.
like, okay, this is very impactful, and it's not just random, and it's statistically significant considering the average suicide rate in the US is like 0.2% or whatever. It's like very, very low compared to that. So come to find out, the sun is like this bright ball of light, right? But cell towers are also this bright ball of light, just like a sun. We just
Mm.
cannot see the light. It's light that we cannot see, but our body can see it as if it's light. Our
Mhm.
endocrine system, our skin, our pineal gland, all of it's like, oh wow, I'm in front of like a sun right now. Whenever you're next to
Mhm.
a cell tower, especially if you're right up next to it working on it, it's just light that's outside of our visual spectrum that we can see.
Spectrum.
We
Yep.
can only see Roy G. Biv, right?
Right.
And there's even like infrared, there's stuff all around us that we can't see just because of the curvature of our eyeball and the way that our iris and everything works, just
It's almost
how
like a
big we are.
filter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So um, because the balls of light are like cell towers, our bodies act like they're light, and our bodies get all thrown off thinking that it's like bright light, like it's sun.
Mhm.
And then it throws off our circadian rhythm, our biological cycle. So, say it's like 10 p.m. and you're working on a cell tower, your body is like, oh, this is the bright sun I'm in front of. It must be noon, right? And it really like opens up all your stuff. Like I'm in bright, bright light, and you're absorbing the wrong light for one, and your whole system is thrown off, so that these chemicals that are supposed to be being created in the nighttime, they're not being created in the nighttime because your body never thinks it's nighttime, because in the evening you're working on these devices or you're around these devices or whatever. Cell phones do similar thing, but especially cell towers, that's how they, so like you lead to, how do they cause depression? And that's how they throw off your system and fry your pineal gland, these things that make dopamine, precursors of dopamine and melatonin and serotonin, all these sort of things. They are impacted by this bright light, and your body's absorbing it, which is just radiation. Long story short. So cell towers, they used to be on the when it was like 3G and 2G and all that. They used to be far away and emitting, or let's say, what were they doing? They were receiving signals, but the signals were very much not small. They weren't microwaves. Okay, it was like, so. Let me just back up. We've got AM and FM radio waves. Everything is radio waves, right?
Correct.
And the way that data is carried on this waves is they put it on these literal like waves, and how many waves go by per second is how much data they can pile on. So AM, they can't put that much data on it, but they can get it to go really far, and it has different properties because it's like a really big wave, really big carrier wave that has properties. It's like measurable. It actually has a height. It's like 100 feet tall.
Wow.
So that doesn't really impact humans when it comes and it hits us, unless we're like at the AM tower. It's got a lot of energy because it's, EMF, because it's blasting that signal really far. So if we're sitting right there, of course it's going to have some radiation. But if we're
Right.
down the street, it's just plowing through us and it doesn't even hurt us. But you ever stand in front of a antenna and it gets messed up?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's because we are interfering with it. It is hitting us and we're absorbing it,
Right.
but the signal is really large, and it's not like it's our eye, nothing in our bodies, our eyes or organs or anything are that big. So we can absorb into us, but it's not like detrimental to our health, right?
Okay.
Because it's of its size. So FM waves, they're 10 feet and just the same, they don't really impact us. But when you get down to Wi-Fi and 4G, these smaller, they're much, much smaller waves.
Mhm.
5G is measured in millimeters. So it's like literally like the width of a penny, and it can impact cells and impact things much more dramatically, like reproductive organs and little things when you're a developing baby and stuff like that. But
Mm.
size really, really matters. And this is all invisible carrier waves. We can't see them, but it's like tech that's happening all around us, right?
Mhm.
So these things are more absorptive because of the size of the carrier wave. But if you have a really small carrier wave, you can have a lot of waves per second, a lot of hertz or oscillations per second. And in that, you can cram much more data on there because a lot more information being transferred when it's back and forth. When the waves are a lot more. I mean, like they say 60 megahertz or whatever. That's like a lot. That's like some crazy amount of data per second.
Right.
So, lastly, I mean, I know I went all over the place, but these small carrier waves like 5G and the new technology, they can't go very far because of the size of them, and they hit like a tree or even like a cloud
Kills
or
them.
like, yeah, stuff like that absorbs into things, buildings and stuff. It can't just roll through things like the FM and AM radio waves do. They can go through and go far. So this new technology, it be, it is fast, they say, but it cannot go great distance. It can only go like 500 to 1,000 feet, they're saying. So they
Mm.
have to put these cell towers more frequently. And that means we're having to deal with them now. They're all up in our faces. They're right on the side of the road, on the neighborhood, or maybe even on in your block or next to your
I've
school.
I've seen them attached
Cool.
to street light poles. I've seen them disguised as trees in neighborhoods. I mean, it's just crazy. They're all over on the side of buildings, like just strapped along the top crown of the building.
I saw one in Arizona, it was a massive one on top of an elementary school, like right on top of it. I didn't have anything to take a video. I'm not like a smartphone dude. I don't have one. I've actually had no phone for 1 year now. It's amazing.
Oh wow, congratulations.
Yeah.
That's a feat in itself, bro.
Yeah, well, thanks. I'm EMF sensitive, right? And so I like don't like being around it anyways. And everyone's got one anyways. And I've got a girlfriend that has one. So if I'm like, yo, can you Google this? It's right there. I've
Right.
got wired internet. So and I'm always in my office doing stuff, which but I don't have Wi-Fi or anything, right? But I've got a landline, right, for phone calls. And then in my glove compartment in my car is like this track phone where I can just
Hmm.
put minutes on, and then if I ever am in an emergency, I turn this thing on, and for like $30 for the year, it's got minutes on it, but I never use it.
Perfect.
It's just there. Like at one point, I was going to drive to a friend's wedding in Arizona. I was like, okay, I gotta at least have something, so I'm not just like some like. There's the truth, and then there's like being completely overkill with it. You know what I'm saying? Like you still
Right.
gotta live this world and what have you. Like you can't just be Jesus and walk on water and fast for like 1,000 days. You can fast for a day and a half. It's amazing. It feels great. I can't believe it. But it's
Right.
like that's about all I can do. It's like a day and a half.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But so now these cell towers are coming all up in our faces, and they're on hospitals, and I mean they're being painted and they're hiding them. And what's wild is, okay, so I started going, okay, you can literally be like, Matt, let me ask a question or whatever. Like,
You're good. I'm letting you spit right now.
so I got like EMF sensitive because I had a smart meter like right next to my head. Like there, it was right on the other side of the wall. I didn't really even know what a smart meter was. And I was doing my movie and doing my thing and sleeping there. And after like 6 months, I literally started being like electrically sensitive. So that's why I even look at cell towers the way that I do. I literally, if I hadn't walked this life, I would literally walk by them and be like, not even looking at them, just like the chemtrails. I literally wouldn't even look up if I didn't go through the life that I did. You know what I mean? It's not,
Right.
it's interesting. But yeah, so now that I am who I am, it's wild. So there, when I started going to like town hall meetings because I started learning about 5G and no one else was talking about it. And which was wild is when I was living in Sedona, Arizona, I started going to these town hall meetings because they were putting up these little 5G antennas everywhere and nobody knew what was up. And I was like, what about pregnant women? What about people that don't want to be around this, And I went to the first town hall meeting in Sedona. It was packed.
Hmm.
Went to another one. It was packed, but they were like putting it off. They're like, oh no, we're gonna do it another time. Oh, get on this email list. Oh yeah, yeah, get on.
Mm.
No, no, no. And then finally, I got this like email. Like months had gone by, like maybe even a year. And I went to the meeting. I was like the only one that spoke. I'm pretty sure I was the only one that spoke. I think I was
Yeah.
the only. I think I was the only one actually. Yeah. And like my friend filmed it, and the few people clapped, and then the mayor yelled at them for clapping, and it was my first. That was like my first time. But what it was firstly they didn't want to have a town being like answer our questions, but they, just like every other town hall meeting that I ever went to regarding 5G and cell towers and stuff, they literally have their hands tied and they know it and they claim it and they say it and they don't even try, which their hands aren't
Mhm.
as tied as they claim, like, you know what I mean? But they play like, oh well, we can't do anything about it. And what they're told by the federal level is this, which is totally nuts. You can't do anything except for talk about how pretty they are, like aesthetics. You can't talk about anything except for aesthetics.
So like pretty much gas them up.
Straight up. So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
my child's got leukemia. There's a new cell tower right off our bedroom. I'm pretty sure it's attributing to it. My doctor says it is. Can we move this or what? And the SEC, right? Or the
Yeah.
FC, the FCC, SEC.
No, it's FCC and then the SEC. The SEC is the Small Exchange Commissions. The FCC is the Federal Communications.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
FCC.
Yep.
And they threw the Clinton administration to the 1996 Telecommunications Act. And literally, they're still going off this 1996 Telecommunications Act, which is like, doesn't talk about radiation really, it just talks about the way these things look. And so you really have to like play these games. You can't even talk about health, you can't talk about these certain things. And then if a community is trying to like buck the system, they give them this 30-day shot clock, straight like a straight up like
So
sporting event.
for people that don't know, this is like normal tactics in government and courts. Anytime you're dealing with stuff like this, they'll do this. They'll postpone meetings when they see turnouts like that to try to, like you said, they diminish people from wanting to come there because these people are like, we can't even get our voice heard for the first 3 meetings that we went to. They just keep pushing it off in hopes that these people just give up. I mean, DuPont did it with the forever chemicals when these farmers were coming forward. It's normal tactics. It's big business. So that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, and it's smart too. I mean, like they know people are busy, and then like, right, it's like get on this email list, and then oh whoops, we didn't put them all on the list or whatever it is.
Or they
So
email you talking about the meeting last night. What'd you think of it?
yeah, exactly.
Didn't even know it happened.
Exactly. Exactly. So what's amazing about this is it is our opportunity to become activists
Mm,
at the ground level. And things can happen and be done, but it's only if our voices are heard.
absolutely.
I've got endless stories because I bounce around a lot, evidently, because I lived in Santa Rosa, California. So I was in Marin County and Sonoma County, and I did a lot of that area, and even Danville, which is the Bay Area. I spoke at a lot of these little 5G city hall meetings, and there's all these different instances. One where the local government was on our side, talked
Mm,
about an instance where it was the vice mayor, and he literally interrupted us, and I was like, oh, this guy, he's not even allowed to interrupt us because we were given our little 3 minutes. And he said, and I have the video, it's amazing. He said, wait, I experienced something. I think it was a 5G, and he had been in the neighboring city where they're testing 5G, and he and his wife watched all this flock of birds just drop dead right in front of them. And
wow.
he said, I heard this like weird noise next to this cell tower that's brand new. All the birds drop dead. He's like, I don't want this in my community. And
Mhm.
we were telling him, like literally activists with documents and paperwork and stuff, that in Hague, it's European city, that
Mhm.
they Brussels, whatever, they had an instance where their studies showed that the birds dropped dead based on this frequency 5G stuff. It's like documented, right? It wasn't just
Mhm.
some sort of random correlation guessing thing. So poignant stories. I want to share one. I went to Marin County. So Marin is just north of San Francisco.
Mhm.
So right, you go over the Golden Gate Bridge. You're in Marin County, and it's like cream of the crop. It's like, I mean, there's New York, and then there's Berkeley Bay Area. There's like that's where like the really good lawyers and stuff are. Maybe LA and stuff in the United States, right?
Mhm.
These are like attorneys, authors. Like I met some amazing people at this county 5G talk, right? And I learned so much. For one, there's a town, Mill Valley. it's in the same county. There's where all the big wigs, Verizon execs, all the telecom executives, where they live.
Silicon Valley. Yep.
Yeah, they were able to ban 5G from residential. So they're just like, and no other communities can do this because they're not allowed to talk about all these certain things. But these lawyers came in and were like, nah, it messes up the way our expensive $1 million mansions look. And because we're spaced out down the street, you'd have to put it in front of my $1 million mansion. And I don't care that you can make it look like a tree. You're not getting it past us. We're too smart. And
Right.
therefore, right? It's
Yeah.
unreal. So I learned that you can get it banned if you're just smart enough,
Or know the law is good enough.
know the law is good enough, and get in there the right way. But also, I witnessed like it was. So here's one story. So people stand up and they give their 3 minutes and they
Mm-hmm.
tell their story. They're like, this is by my school or whatever, or I want it like this. Or we got to at least do some sort of rules where it can't be 500 feet from this and that. Like people are very well educated and eloquent. This one woman, she gave her speech, which was very heartbreaking, about that they put a cell tower near her home. She
Mm-hmm.
started having miscarriages because she was trying to get pregnant. She knew
Right.
it was from the cell tower, and she started crying, and she fell down on the ground. And this is packed place, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
packed audience. And I'm in there, one of my first ones, and I just heard about it randomly and synchronized. I was there nearby. I was helping someone get a car. Like someone needed a ride to go buy a car. So I gave them a lift and I happened to be there. It's wild. And I was like,
Talk
oh, I
about
should
seconds and
definitely.
inches, huh?
Yeah. I was like, I should be there. So I went and then I was like, I should say something. So I stood up and I was like, being in a 5G environment, it's like being in an airport body scanner 24 hours a day. Like when you go to the
Mm.
TSA, you get to say yes or no. And I say no. And I get to, they ask me and I do not consent and I don't go through the body scanner. So how are you going to make everyone force them to do that 24 hours a day? Anyways, this woman, she fell on the ground in front of everybody, begging the council, the county council members, crying on her knees, begging them not to put in this tech because she knew it was doing to her, what it was doing to her womb, was doing to the next generation, how
Mm-hmm.
impactful it was. She knew it was causing her miscarriages, right? Then fast forward like a year, and it was COVID. Hope I didn't ruin your whole show by saying that word.
No, you're good.
Dude, I've been socially engineering. I tell you what, like I have like certain things. I'm just like at certain things. I'm just like But
You
anyways,
have to.
right? So check it out. For a couple years, they're rolling out 5G. They're putting it up everywhere, right?
While
And they're like,
everybody's locked down.
yeah. And they say, hey, you want to talk about this? You want to talk about this? And it was not people lining up giving their 3 minutes, eloquent, practiced versed speech, getting filmed, meeting people on the like crying on the floor, meeting these peers and doing protests and all this. They said you can come to our Zoom meeting and type your comments in the side. So
Oh
our rights,
my
that's where our rights
God,
went.
dude.
That's where our rights went, right? So if you're listening, people, we have our rights back, quote unquote, right? I mean, ish, kind of. I mean, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we got something back. Right now, you can go in face to face and talk to your local representative. Actually,
Legislations, yeah.
yeah, you actually have someone, not just your mayor, but you have like someone that represents
A
your
county representative. They
yeah,
have county, state, local. They're usually divided by districts for anybody who doesn't know.
yeah.
Um,
Even your county is split up. Even
and
your
and
town
these
is
are
split up.
these are public servants, so they have to give you their information. They'll have
Mhm.
usually like a business email. You
And
can
they have to give
write.
you the time of day.
Absolutely. They have to. I've done it before and I pretty much got told in lesser words to F off, but I did it. I reached out to him about the spraying in the sky. So,
Yeah, so check it out.
um,
I like to say it's like this. If you really want there to be a traffic light or stop sign in your neighborhood because there's been a lot of accidents or something, you go in and you can get it on the town.
ballot
Yeah,
or,
they're going to talk
or
about it. Yeah,
they're
they've got words
go
for
ahead.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then they talk about it and then they vote and then they could literally put a stop sign in because you brought it to their attention, right?
Mm,
It's
I like
just
how
like that.
simple you use that.
Yeah,
It's nice.
it's just like that. You go in and they're like, what's your address? Oh, this person represents you. Oh, you didn't know that? You're supposed to vote on them getting their position. You know what I mean? It's like,
They do
oh,
a good job of hiding that.
Yeah. Really, it is. It's funny. It's like, oh, there's only 20 votes last time or something. It's like, oh, your vote really didn't matter in that instant. They don't even let you know. So, anyways, you got a person that represents you, and then they vote. And it's usually sometimes it's just a few of them, or three or five. And that person that you've spoken to, they're one of the people that's supposed to be lobbying for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they vote, they're supposed to be voting in your favor because they've
Right.
talked to you about this issue. And then they're supposed to have talked to those other people, and they're supposed to have listened to the different sides and been like, actually, maybe there shouldn't be a cell tower on top of the hospital. That's
Mm.
counter intuitive. It makes no, you know what I mean?
And let me say this. So on the contrary from what you just said, this actually works in our favor for me, Matt, and anybody out there listening. Like he said, dude, these things go so unnoticed, and they plan on that to go so unnoticed. They don't advertise these things. So when he's talking about, these last county representatives for your district got like maybe 15 votes, like you knowing this and finding out and researching yourself, that's how easy you can like change that vote and get somebody in there that matters. So for anybody out here listening, I hope that doesn't go over your head and you realize that like if you get that information and are at the right place at the right time, you can get like a handful of people and you guys can hand pick somebody who you trust and know that can represent you during these times of votes or anything like that because they're so limited because they don't advertise them. They usually get swept under the rug so people don't even know about them. So as much as they use it against us, there are ways to turn it back around on them and be helpful for us.
And it's all grassroots, and it's where we
Mm,
think we've lost our power, but we still do have it, you know? And I lived in Northern California, in Arcata, California, this little town in Humboldt County, right? I went to college there, and I was living there
very
during,
familiar with it.
yeah. So I was living there during part of COVID. No, it was right before COVID. Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry. So it was during 5G, all this stuff. So this is a really important story. So I was known a little bit as someone who's anti 5G from just being who I was, and known as the chemtrail dude. And there was a police, some sort of racist injustice. So there was a lot of people at the town meeting because they wanted justice brought to this black kid that was killed, right?
Mhm.
And so it had been years, but the justice hadn't been served, and it was very interesting. I went in, and actually they're like hijacking the whole thing. But I got this text message, very just random, another right place at the right time. Hi Matt, I'm at the town hall meeting, and it says 5G's on the ballot today,
Mm,
or on the minutes or whatever they're going to talk
mhm.
about it. So I went in there, and it was just right down the street, right? And I'm like, where's this town hall's like right there next to the everything. It's like people don't even realize like it's so accessible. It's not even funny. It's like where your police station is or whatever. It's right there. It's right in your
Mm.
town. Everyone's got one. And everywhere in America you've got one. It's like right there. You don't even realize it. And there's someone right there waiting to talk to you. So I go in there, and this town meeting was supposed to have 5G, and they're supposed to do the vote on it. But literally the meeting got like hijacked by the students because
Mhm.
they were trying, it was justice for Josiah. And they just chanted justice for Josiah really loud for like 3 hours, and there was no meeting. It's wild.
Mm.
So then I got to scramble and be like, okay. And then I talked to the mayor, and I was like, yo, I saw there's 5G on the thing. And what's the deal? And they're like, we're going to talk about it next time. We're going to vote on it. And I was like, what, when, where, how? And then was able to talk to the mayor in the behind the scenes before the meeting. And then when I went to the meeting, there was the justice for Josiah people there again, but they didn't hijack the meeting. And they were standing there, and they said, does anybody want to talk about this 5G? We're going to vote on this. Crickets. Nobody. Zero.
Mm.
I stood up there and I said, listen, based on what you just said, you have no idea what this even is. And you're about to vote yes on it coming into your neighborhoods. You just said you thought it was fiber optics. You don't even realize what it is. Do you realize you know, I'm sorry. And I go, look, I don't want to offend you, but you're not electrical engineers. None of you are experts in this. I've done a bunch of research. I'm not an expert, but I know way more than you guys, and you guys don't know diddly squat about this topic. And I mean, like, excuse me, but correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Mhm.
I mean, we're talking about the health impacts and whatever and la da da, and you don't know anything about it, you know? And then I was like, did you know that these cell towers make plants around them flammable? And this is when the California fires were a big deal. So it's like if you're putting
Mm.
flammable things everywhere and all this stuff. And then I said, like, the Mill Valley. And so I had my audience behind me and I knew who they were, right? And they were
Right.
like, they were who they were. Okay.
They were
And
already
so,
on edge and getting ready to get
yeah,
riled up.
and
So,
so I was able to spin it, bro. And I don't mean to say I manipulated the audience or anything, but what I did do was I was like, there's places where they've banned this, and there's places where they're
mm,
not just putting it in. And where are those places? Rich white people, right? And like I
yeah,
had these like people that were there for the justice for the black
they were
community.
all
They
about
were
it.
already ready, bro. And they lined up, homie, and they all gave their little speeches. And they
Hmm.
weren't there to do that. They weren't going to do that. No one was going to do
Right.
it. And the last dude was this guy in a wheelchair, and he was talking about how when he was in world I don't even know, one of the wars, and how the radar
Mm,
would cook a freaking seagull,
yeah.
and it would literally be like, would you want to cook it or whatever, like a literally dead bird on the deck from the intense radiation.
Wow.
And everyone had their little story, and this one woman got up and she was from there's a few local tribes like the Yurok, and there's a few local tribes,
Hmm.
and she was like, have you gotten the tribe involved in this? Have you spoken to them? You're just going to put these up without letting us know? And it was a, and then COVID happened, like I think a week later, so like who
It was
knows?
all pointless, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, because I don't live there anymore, who knows what happened? Because a lot of things just got like literally send your comments in the Zoom meeting and we'll let you know what we think. It's not the same. I mean, it's not
Mm.
the same at all. But now we're back to having a little bit of reality, and you can get this on the meeting and you can talk about this. And not everywhere have they rolled out this technology at all. I mean, some cities they're putting it in and they're still trying to figure out how dense they can put it and what it means and whatever. And do they need to cut down trees for it to really work and all this stuff? But it's literally up to us to voice our, not just opinion, to voice the facts. For
Mm.
some reason, the world we live in is like an empire of lies. I'm sorry. Not for
Dude,
some
it's
reason.
the
It's corruption,
the
you know?
dark side, bro. The Empire Strikes Back. Yep.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Morgellons disease?
Mm-hmm, yeah, yeah. Of
Okay.
course.
So for people who don't know Morgellons disease is like 80% of mainstream doctors write it off as a psychotic episode, like schizophrenia, bipolar, stuff like that. Try to pill you down or admit you into some ward. But basically, like other real scientists and doctors who actually like take the time of day and care about our health and concerns have found some validity to this stuff. And basically, it's like all those radio waves that Matt was talking about earlier in the episode. So like those things all have fallout, just like when you have dust in the air and the particles fall on your skin and stuff like that. So these radio waves have fallout just like that. They're like electromagnetically charged dust particles. And some people have claimed to see like fibers, like nanofibers coming out of their skin and stuff, almost like bugs. Um, so how does that correlate with what we're talking about, or what's your research found on it, or enlighten me, like shine some light on that.
Um, okay, I'm not trying to be rude or condescending, but do you want the 2 minute, 5 minute, or 10 minute one on
Let's
that one?
let's do the 5 minutes. Let's keep it medium.
Okay, so I one of my people who I really wanted to meet was Clifford Carnicom, and I went and I met him when I was doing these conferences down in the Southwest because he's from New Mexico. That's where he has his lab, and he has his Carnicom Institute, and he studies Morgellons and chemtrails and all
Mm,
this. And I interviewed him, and he came and spoke in Tucson when I had this conference in Tucson to stop Bill Gates from dimming the sun publicly in this experiment. It was May 2018. It was a big activism deal. I never heard what you said, and that's really interesting about the fallout from the EMF attributed to Morgellons. That's fascinating. So, I mean, I like that. So he was a big researcher on it. I've gotten really into it. Um, and recently, especially, I've been studying or just having to look into the food chain, right? And I mean, like I can't believe that most vegetarian sausages and hot dogs or whatever have human DNA in them. That's just like a mind blower. That's, I mean, like you think you're doing better by eating your vegetarian little sausage and you're eating what? But people or what?
Yeah,
I
you're
don't
eating
even.
meat.
People meat. You're eating people meat. So that's just and so I started really tripping on that and analyzing that and analyzing. There's another thing. There's an amino acid, L-cysteine or whatever. It's in a
Mhm.
lot of crappy breads. Like I try to
Okay.
eat really good, so a lot of these things don't matter to me.
Same.
But
Same.
like if I go to a Safeway or an Albertsons or something like that, I'm walking around for a while, knowing because I'm now 43, like I'll get sick from a lot of things because like there's a lot of crap and a lot of stuff, and now I know all about it. And so, but before is like this learning curve and whatnot. And there's this stuff that it's in a lot of breads and croutons and pita bread and all this stuff. It's an amino acid, and it's come to find out, and this is right there, Googleable. It's just not even a freaking rabbit hole, and it's human hair from China, like literally from the salons in
Human
China.
hair
Human hair from
in your
China
bread.
in your bread, like in the most of the public bread.
So like the yoga mat chemical and Safeway bread type deal.
Oh, yeah, similar
Remember
like
that?
that.
Remember that?
Yeah. Oh, I do because I used to eat Subway all the time, and that's the
Mm.
one thing I couldn't digest. And like TMI, but the next morning when I'm like going to the bathroom, it smelled like that I couldn't
Yoga mat.
digest it. Yeah, yeah. Let's just talk about something else. But no, I've learned about a lot of stuff through eating this stuff. And like there's printed chicken nuggets now. Like okay, quietly during 2020 when we were thinking about feeding our families without wearing a mask or whatever
Right.
the crap was we were going through, like trying to because people's jobs, people out of, I mean, there's so many things we were trying to deal with. I did remember someone saying, "Oh, they have to change the name of KFC because it's not really chicken." And I was like, "Yeah, it ain't chicken." Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I never realized they were printing it. I had no idea it was like being
3D
printed.
printed chicken. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's being printed, and then that it's not even like nutritional. And it's not even chicken. It's not even like it's just crazy. So if you think about it on a spiritual level, they are trying to get all these humans, which are very powerful spiritual beings, to be resonating at this disgusting low frequency where they're like de-evolving. They're like
Mhm.
de-evolving. Okay. And imagine they're eating that stuff all the time, along with the Starbucks, along with the chemtrails, along with the EMF. Yeah, Morgellons, like I've come to this place with it where there's no way I'm going to know where it's coming from,
Mhm.
you know but likely people are eating mutated stuff and then having mutated kids, and then they're eating mutated stuff and then they're having mutated kids. There's going to be weird mutations. I mean, geez, it's out of control. I mean, if there's we're becoming more metallic, people are not detoxing, they're eating just like the stuff that they eat. Like, I mean, we're talking about some weird dystopian movie like Soylent Green mixed with
So the way I found out about Morgellons disease was the
Thanks.
same way I found out about you, was coast to coast. Shout out to George Norrie Coast to Coast. But they had a doctor on there, I forget his name, but he went as so far he believed in this stuff and the 5G and all that stuff that he ended up moving out in the desert in the middle of nowhere, and all of his door entries he literally does like a disinfectant wash, but with high powered magnets that he lined his door frames with to take all the fallout off of him as he comes into his house so none of it comes in, and then
Mhm.
like does this weird wash with like foil and stuff. He was explaining it, but like this is when I really started looking into it. But what you're talking about, um I'm not gonna say it to get because only on YouTube right now, so I don't want to get my thing canceled. But the alphabet people, you know who I'm talking about, the
Mhm.
rainbows and stuff like that. The big push for that in getting people to change who they are medically and surgically, um, is for an agenda, and it has nothing to do with love. They don't care about your love or who loves you. But once they start pushing integrating humans with robot technology and AI technology and stuff like that, people aren't even gonna bat an eye at it because they're gonna be so desensitized to 13-year-old kids mutilating their bodies, um, for a movement that's like propagated. It's propaganda.
Well, you mentioned robots, and I think that it's a slow game.
Mhm.
I like. I'm tripping on like I trip on so many things like, and I go so deeper on it all like when the like a couple of weeks ago the alternative media was talking about Zuckerberg has built a secret bunker in Hawaii. It's like, why would that be secret news being shoved down my throat every which way? Because look,
Right.
I got on Facebook, like I do get, for some reason Facebook wants me still alive because I think I
Mhm.
play this like role. They censor the crap out of some things, but then they let some things happen and they get to watch what I don't even know why I still have a Facebook page, but I do try not to press too many buttons or whatever. So anyways, I'm still there and I got like 80,000 followers. It doesn't really grow that much and whatever and all these things,
Oh,
but
it's
I get
grown
it's
since the last time we talked.
I'm so thankful that it exists. And
Mhm.
so I get a lot of messages, and it's an amazing little like litmus test of what the F is going on. Like the Miami alien thing, like people
Yeah.
sending me, like probably a lot of these people are bots and trolls, and who knows who all these people are, but I'm getting flooded with it. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And dang, I don't even know what we were talking about. Some topic that I got flooded with, and I realized it was nonsense.
Robots.
Um, so the bunker thing. Like,
Mhm.
yo, Zuckerberg's not building a bunker. And if he did it years ago because he knows, like,
Right.
or because he knows what's up. Like, if it's public, it's not secret. And if they're telling us it's some sort of weird disclosure, and if it's hit the mainstream the way that it has, where people are hitting me with it from all these different sources and all this stuff, it's reached hundreds of millions of people. So why? Is there something going to happen? They're disclosing. Maybe they're trying to get us in a space of fear. They do this all the time. I mean,
Right.
it was what was it? Y2K, and then it was 2012.
Yep.
Definitely the last election, people like were buying guns to the
100%.
point that like the gun shops were sold out. I went to the store to try to get a gun. They
Dude,
did sell me
I
gun.
was in California during that time and I had never seen a gun shop with a line around the block, bro, before they even opened.
Wow.
I was tripping.
So now all those people are armed to the teeth, right? So I mean, how are they going to be played? What's going to happen next? I have no idea. But honestly, I think it's just this. You keep your general populace in a space of fear, like, oh man, there's going to be a civil war tomorrow, and oh man, this and that. They're definitely not going to band together and take down the freaking elite, whatever, the bad guys. You know, they're
Right,
not. They're
right.
not going to like have the revolution when they're when they're scared. It's a
Fighting
frequency
each
war.
other.
Yeah, right. They're fighting each other. They're worried about their neighbor. I mean, we could talk about that stupid Obama movie that everyone's now talking about, but like it was racist
Mhm,
and it was also like very fear based and my
mhm.
girlfriend who's like not into any of it, bro, she's very grounded, she's not into any of that stuff, she's always been like, yeah, whatever, Matt. After we watched that movie, she's like, what are we gonna do when it happens? I was like, what? And still she's like, we got to dig it. She's like, we're like learning how to do survivalist
Code
shit now.
words and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's wild, right? But it's like when you're in that space, that frequency of fear, you're not going to your city hall meeting, you're not doing anything properly when you think the end of the world's going to happen tomorrow. I'm
Mm,
a guy in the desert who had this huge stash for Y2K. And I was like, you know, I didn't care about Y2K. I was 20 years old or whatever. I didn't care. I did not care. It was not on my radar. I thought people were being stupid, but some people did. And I saw this guy's stash. He had refrigerators buried in the ground and sealed with canned food. So they're
mm,
all this like, he did it proper. But here
mhm.
we are freaking 20 years later, bro, and it's all gone bad. And what was the point? Why did you
Yeah.
do that? Because you were programmed by some stupid ish. Like, you know, if something happens, some solar flare nonsense or whatever they're going to try to pull out of their asses, it's it's going to happen. We're going to
Right.
deal with it when it happens, and like the minimal prep that we can do to like, I think like having a few days worth of supplies and having those things, yes, it's a good idea, but like living in it, you're not going to, you know. Also the Morgellons, like I think that I actually I got in a space of that for like a year. I was so worried about everything. I was worried about spider webs because supposedly they can stuff can be embedded on these
Mm.
nanofibers. I was worried about everything. Every time I saw the chemtrails, I was worried. I didn't want to go outside. I was ready to get those magnets on my doorway, like homie. I was doing the detox baths with the borax and all that sort of
Yep.
stuff.
Yep.
And I've done a lot of that, but then I turned full circle, looked myself in the mirror, and I was like, dude, you're spun out on fear, man. Like you're not getting
Exactly
yourself.
where they wanted you to be.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm not gonna like empower anybody, make a movie or whatever. I'm gonna go to. There's gonna be a protest in Scotland, and I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get footage for my next movie, and I'm gonna give a little speech about. So check this speech out that I want to work on, and then I'm happy to pass the mic to you. This is why chemtrail stuff is really important right now for us. We have these memories. Our parents and people older than us, they have memories of these beautiful cobalt blue skies and these clouds. They are playing this slow game. Think about the children. They're not going to have the fight that we have. They're not going to have the memories. They're not going to care as much as we do. So it really is up to us. And that's why it's such a long, slow game. Because by the time it's becoming completely like, hey, we're going to do this. Anybody opposed to this? They're going to scratch their head and be like, what? I remember this the whole time. This is my childhood. It's because we have these awesome memories. It's why it's up to us to pass this torch of truth alive and pass those memories down. Do it like, we're meant to do. I want to make this into like a little speech. But yeah, it's up to us. Like we can't expect the next generation at all to do it. They don't even have the memories.
Mm. And what's crazy is I watched this video of this guy. I don't know how true it was or not, but he said that Disney paid him $60,000 to go back to all the old movies and re-edit chemtrails clouds in the movie.
Yeah, I'm
So
glad you said it like that because I saw the
that's
same video and I
that's
said
crazy.
thought the
But
same thing.
so again, I don't know the truth to that guy's story, but me and my wife were just watching a recent animated movie by Disney with the kids, and they had a plane in there spraying it. And I told mom, I'm like, look at that, look at the plane in the background. And she was like, no way. So that's crazy. But anyways, I'm a believer in Morgellons disease. Sometimes I get these little weird white hairs that pop out of my forehead or somewhere, and I have to like have a freak out moment. Sometimes I'm like, do I have more gallons? But I believe in it. It makes complete logical sense. I don't have to have a PhD or some fancy degree or letters after my name to put two and two together. Another thing that you brought up was dry plants, dry vegetation. So why don't you talk a little bit about that? So you have these 5G towers. We talked about chemtrails back then. So let's tie it all in. Um, they spray the skies. They have these 5G towers and these big radars. What's that for? What's that all about? Where's the correlation there?
It definitely ties together. I just want to say really quick about the Morgellons. It's real, and I'm a believer as well. Now they're getting the doctors to say it's a symptom of Lyme's disease because I think a lot more people are having it. So it used to be you go to the doctor and they say, oh, this is just a psychosis. You've mentally made this happen to yourself
Right,
because you like have been itching your skin and thinking it's going to happen. You've now made these little red fibers come out of your skin that look like tech. It's weird, red and blue
right.
little fibers. I've talked to numerous people who have it. It could be in all of us, and I think it's very much a frequency and vibration thing. I've talked to people that are just like completely wigged out on it, and they can't get it to go away. And the only thing that they can find that helps is removing acidic things from their diet, like processed food and coffee, and
Okay.
really stepping up their game on like green juices and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think also like, I mean, I know this sounds weird, but meditation and stuff. But
No,
like, I think
100%.
I think diet a lot. Like it thrives on an acidic
The
environment.
human body is raw, and the fact that you said that doctors were telling people that they thought that up in their mind, you can literally induce yourself into a heart attack or a stroke just by too much thought, like really thinking about it. So the same goes for healing. If you believe yourself healed and fully believe it over and over and over again, your body will react to that.
Break down the word healthy self, and it's
Mm,
heal thyself.
mm,
There's all this witchcraft and wordplay, and it's all right before our eyes, and it doesn't always have to be negative. We just have to kind of see it for what it is. Like I don't, when I was growing up, I had a little peace necklace, but now I've learned it's inverted. It's like I'm not going to rock that.
right.
But at least okay. So, anyways, I digress. It's very simple and diabolical. And it's like people go, why? Okay, here's the why. We didn't necessarily win World War II, and they're playing the slow game so that they don't lose this war. So
Mm,
it's like they go in their bunkers and they do all their stuff and they emerge freaking like 2 generations later and humanity is basically all robots because we've had to all get the similar injections and breathe all the same stuff and eat all the same stuff, and they come out and they're the only humans left, and it's like this spiritual battle. They're trying to like maintain this low vibration. It's very weird. Like the people always want to get to the why because it's like
Right.
they can't wrap themselves around it. Here's another way to look at it. Imagine you're just diabolical and evil, and you've got this like bloodline that is like lived on because you've done evil things together to keep them in places of power. And it's got to be really cutthroat to do that, right? You guys have these board meetings, and it's like evil people all around this board meeting. Like, try to be a seat in that boardroom. And
Mhm.
you're like, oh, maybe if we reduce the population by 90%, we could turn them all into robots, and then we'd be the only ones spiritually, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's very sinister. So I think the goal is they're spraying chemtrails for decades, you guys.
Mhm.
Slowly gets in our food, slowly gets in our bodies. They do these inoculation things, which I don't say those words, right? But then we end up with more metals in our bodies,
Right.
metal in the foods, metal. We are becoming more metallic
Mm.
slowly but surely. They interviewed some Nokia president, and he said in 10 years the phones will be in the bodies. Okay,
In the bodies. Yep.
slow game. It's the slow game, but we're over here like, what? I just got the new iPhone 17 and I'm not going to get it in my body. It's like, okay, well then maybe your kid will. It's like
Right.
they won't have those memories of never even having a phone. Like they won't have those memories of no square clouds and whatever. They won't know.
It'll literally be an iPhone. Project a fucking screen out of your eye.
Oh, the iPhone. Boom.
Hmm.
Horrible. Anyways, um, this dude I met at this park once, he looked like he'd been on like drugs for a week, but he was like rapping about cell phone and self own and how
Mm.
it's ownership of yourself. And I was
Cell
just like,
phone.
dude,
Yeah.
dude's on to something right there. I was like, I'll take that little piece out of all that gibberish you just said. Anyways, so the cell phones now, if you have like a handful of 5G phones together in a room, they become this little network. And now the phones are actually this like relay where it's getting all the data around and sending it to the next phone, to the next phone, to the small cell, to the small cell, to
Mm.
the big cell, because the data is getting tighter and smaller. But it's up to how many cell phones are around to how much this system works. So you can get more 5G service when you're in like in a dense city, when there's all
Right.
these, and if you look at it, it's like all these little cell towers like moving around, mobile little nodes, and it's all like creating this network. Okay. Well, we've got Elon Musk, and he had this Grimes wife who sold her soul, and I guess they're divorced, but who cares? They had this child who's got like this name, Alpha, Beta, whatever this kid's
Yeah.
name is.
I don't even know how to
I
pronounce it.
forget, right? He's going to be a robot, all right?
Hmm.
And slowly but surely, he'll be the poster child for the Neuralink, because who's going to sign up their kid for Elon Musk's Neuralink? Nobody. So there'll be like Neuralink child that has like augmented AI, and they'll be like, oh man, like they even have like, I don't know if I'm pressing any buttons, but like I think Joe Rogan sold his soul and is a sellout. Like he had Elon Musk on, and they smoked a little joint, and he even said like, oh, if you had AI in your brain, you would be like a god. Like they're throwing
Mm.
these words around like a god. And
Right.
maybe Joe Rogan's just told, okay, you got a big show, you got to say this. Here's your paycheck, whatever.
Right.
Still, it's becoming implanted, and I'm overhearing the common people talk around that like, would they get a chip in their brain or whatever? And they're like, well, Elon Musk says it's safe, and if it's the new thing and whatever, like people will do it. Why will they do it? Because of SpaceX and because of going to Mars and all these things that are
Because of who
not
they made
necessarily.
him out to be in the public.
Yeah, but also, yes, exactly. But also, they will have to have these upgrades to do these space trips. And,
Mm.
and so they'll have to be like bionic, this and that, and whatever. And we're talking like 20 years from now or 10 years from now, but whatever. It's like Total Recall. Like, will they really go, or they just get the chip of the memory in their head? Like that
Right.
movie's really poignant. 1990.
Hmm.
1990.
They tell
Crazy.
us.
They do. Out of control. I mean, like, just for one moment, I think 1990, Back to the Future. In Back to the Future, they literally like have this weird witchcraft talk about 9/11. We're 11 years before, and they already have it planned where they're telling Paramount or whatever to put it in the movie just like this,
Mm.
to entrain our minds to get us preconditioned to have this fanciful, like they did it's like twin tower thing and the terrorists and like the clock says 9/11. There's no question, like in my mind. I looked at it through a very objective lens, and I'm very objective because I don't like saying things because then they're like, oh yeah, because people try to find that one thing, right?
Right.
Back to the Future 1990 witchcraft, wild, because I've seen it a million times. Anyways, so we get more metallic through our diets. The frequencies get tighter and tighter and tighter. And slowly but surely, we end up with, and I hate to say, oh, I even saw eye rings, or not eye rings, but cell phone rings. They're out.
Mm-hmm.
Smart rings, smart
Mm-hmm.
rings. It's a little ring, and it's taking your pulse, and it's basically got a little, like, it's basically in you, because like these Apple Watch patents and stuff like that, they're getting your blood pressure and stuff because they're basically in you with their infrared and all this stuff. It's
Yeah,
basically
they read
already
your
there.
biometrics, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's 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 penetrating your skin and reading
Mm-hmm.
the inside of you through tech. And um micro, there's patents where it's like basically going to be in you very soon if it's not already in you. Okay, you've got the earbuds where they're communicating through your skull, manipulating your brain waves and talking to each other through your brain. I saw these new beanies that have um these beanies. You just buy them on Amazon for like 20 bucks, and they've got the Bluetooth in there. So you can turn
Oh
the
yeah.
speakers on, turn the speakers off. That's got Bluetooth like manipulating your brain waves, putting signal through your brain. We're one step away from the next cool kid on the block, celebrity or whatever, having this upgrade where they are essentially mobile cell phones, okay, without the cell phone. Like they'll be able
Right.
to access it through the augmented lens or whatever. And so you got they they spray the chemtrails, but they've always been trying to figure out how to get them to not glob up. There's technical words for it, but they fall to the ground. So they're like, look, if we have aluminum of this nanoparticulate spray level, and we spray the aluminum, and then we spray the strontium and barium and mix it together, and then we zap it with microwaves, it still falls to the ground. And then, oh, I'll tell you, yeah, it makes for trees becoming more fire prone, and then the cell towers make things more fire prone as well because of the way that it dries things up and agitates cells and stuff. We can talk about that. But so imagine they want to get that chemtrail fallout to not just fall to the ground. It's a waste. I mean, look at how much money they spend all the
Yeah.
time. So imagine they want to spray it, zap it, zap it, zap it, and get it to be like a more metallic air. If that was the case, then things would be more conductive. Their signals would go further. Their AI reality of transhumanism would work out a lot better. So they're putting in 5G towers everywhere, and they do use those to elevate that haze to get it around to make a more metallic dystopia. But fast forward like 10 years, and all the people are, I mean, not 10 years, but fast forward into the dystopian future, and the cell towers, the chemtrails, the people, they're all integrated into this network of um, it's like social credit system on crack. I mean, monitoring everything that we do and say for the good of the state, monitoring everything that we think and feel, and everyone's. I mean, the goal, which is so weird, it's singularity. And singularity is we all are on a network where we all have same thoughts and feelings together. Yay!
Wow.
We all get to share it. You know about this one? So it's like the net. So like 1,000 years in the future or whatever. It's like the Borg. You know the Borg,
Mm-hmm.
where we're all on this network and we all have our little cyber chips and stuff. We're independent because we're out in the world, but everyone's experiencing it together as well. So like all of our thoughts and stuff go into this AI network, intranet, and it's all shared. So we're all knowing and we're all godlike together. But it's like the opposite of spirituality. It's an adoption of materialism. It's basically the creation of hell, I think, honestly. So I think we're
Giving
having
your
like
soul up.
yeah, I think we're witnessing the creation of hell, and maybe it's by divine design. Maybe it's supposed to happen this
Mm,
way, and maybe it'll cycle itself out or whatever. But I do believe that there's like souls that aren't supposed to be so screwed over. And so then there's people like us, and I mean, there's a lot of us, but I think that souls are here to help. But I think there's souls that are being bamboozled. But I also think that there are souls that are here to eat the Cheetos and not. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I'm starting to think it through. Like who they're going to become robots, and then they're going to be
yeah.
soulless. And if there's a war, like I'll kill robots.
Hell
I've
yeah.
like so like are we here to have a robot war and to have like I don't even know I don't this got really weird, but yeah, it gets deep and weird and dark to picture the dystopia. Is everybody going to do it? I don't think so. Is there going to be a like vibration of consciousness where people like you and I can't even reside, and that is in our children? I hope so. I hope that those
Mm,
people and their decisions vibrate into a place where we don't even exist. I think there's going to be a rapture split, and
yeah.
those metal cyborg people can live in their own dystopia, and we'll not even remember they exist. Something like that. Like I
Ye-
don't think the rapture is like they say. I think it's a split in frequency, but it's like I eat very organic, and then other people are eating like fried people. It's like it's like there's got to be something happening here slowly but surely.
yeah,
But that's my answer to your question.
it never made sense to me because they literally they first of all they pitch geoengineering as it's not even happening. It's just a theory or a suggestion that they want to test to stop the greenhouse effect, right? And carbon emissions and global warming. But in doing so, well, and first of all, it's a complete lie on the fact that they're not doing it because you can go outside any given day and see that they are doing it. Secondly, they're basically saying that to slow down global warming, they're going to create the same effect that they claim is causing global warming, which is the greenhouse effect, where sunlight comes in through this blanket of CO2 and it gets trapped and it bounces around and then it heats up the earth. But them spraying nanoparticulates is basically doing the same thing. You're putting a sheet of or a blanket of dust up there, and then not only does it trap the sunlight in, but it's almost like a magnifying glass where it like you ever put a magnifying glass on a bug and it burns it really quick and stuff like that. It's the same thing. So that never made sense to me. But like your movie Frankenskies, do the 5G towers have the capability of charging up those nanoparticles with their frequencies? And is that directly to like manipulate weather, or is there other applications for that?
Yes, they can. And I know this because I've seen on a crazy spray day in Arizona that the cell tower underneath the haze had created a perfect hole right above it.
Mm,
I was always wondering, and people had thrown that idea around, and I was like, yeah, that'd be smart if they utilize that to do that as well. Maybe that was just an accidental after effect, but definitely they do it, they would do work together, it seems.
mhm.
And I do think that the powers that be likely integrate them. Yeah, I mean, you've got this whole like Doppler system, dude. They've got these Doppler radars that literally they say are predicting the weather, but they're engineering and like steering it, which is you know. I'm really glad that you used the word um, greenhouse effect. Is that what you
Mhm.
said?
Mhm.
Yeah, because that's a word that kind of got swept under the rug. Now there's all these catchphrases, climate change and global warming. But greenhouse effect is really what we're worried about if we are worried about global warming, which is
Right.
supposedly what we're worried about. And yes, spraying metal in the skies. Not only does it do what you said about the magnification of it, but what I'm learning is it really amplifies certain UVs and disrupts other UVs. So
Mm,
imagine you're a plant or even a human. That's your whole cycle is regulated on this, and we don't realize how impacted we are by the sun. But plants, I mean, and trees, you can tell because they'll flower or the fruit won't come or whatever, or they'll bolt. Can you really see it, especially in some sensitive thing like cilantro or something. So what I've witnessed, and I'm talking to different farmers, and I'm looking for a good botanist or someone to interview for my movie, my next film, Frankenskies 2, Climate Chains, like shackles.
oh,
Is I've noticed that, and other people are noticing that plants, especially like farmers, their plants are getting really confused. I know you told me where you live it was like unseasonably warm, and then now it's like negative something 50.
Dude, in a matter of like days, it went from like 38 degrees to this morning we broke a state record. It was negative 73 with the wind chill.
Right. So you've got plants confused, and then all of a sudden it's dead of winter, and they're doing it also with not just the fluctuations in temperature, but the fluctuations in the UV. So these plants, they're totally not knowing what's going on with the sun. They spray so much that, and I've noticed actually, I'll go out in the sun and I'll get sunburned after 10 minutes. Like
Yeah.
usually I've got like some Italian blood. I'm pretty Sicilian.
Mhm.
So um, I get sun and I just get darker. I like it. I like it a lot. But this sun, I've noticed when they mess with it, it'll come on and it'll be sometimes in front of like a hazy cloud. Like they're not doing what they say they're doing, right?
Yeah.
And also, I'd like to talk to you because I want to speak to that and what you said and get your advice. So they say, because I'm going to be going to this protest in Scotland, and they were asking me how to take it to the legislators and all this. And I'm like, look, you want to come to them and like talk to them about like rainwater samples and all of that. And I'm like, sorry, that's kind of old news. They sit now, the governments are saying that they are going to be doing geoengineering soon. They
Mm.
say the UN is like, we're going to be launching this. They're not asking permission. They're not
Right.
saying maybe. They're saying they're going to be doing it. It's no longer a maybe. So they say they're going to be doing it, and it's going to look like exactly what the sky looks like now. Correct? Right?
Right.
I mean, so let's open it up for like a public debate. Um, are they already doing it? Yes or no? And is it okay that they're already doing it without public consent? And how are they doing it? And like all these questions, like instead of having this like conspiracy and just like pointing the finger, I don't know. I'm trying to like come up with a way to have this conversation because literally, bro, people are looking at it and you're having the protest and they're like, no, they're not doing it yet. What are you guys crazy? It's like they say they're going to do it next week. It's like, bro, if I said I'm going to paint your house red next week, but I show up and I'm doing it today and you don't want your house red
Hmm.
and I'm painting it red, you're going to tell me that. I mean, like, I'm kind of trying to come up with a metaphor on the spot, but you know what I'm saying? It's right before their eyes. So I'm trying to come up with a way to like rally the public and be like, look, let's have the conversation of what it would look like if they started doing this next year, or you know
Hmm.
what I mean? What it would look like? What would it look like?
Right.
Would it look like this? And if that is what it would look like, then maybe they went ahead and started practicing. And if they're practicing, is it detrimental to my health? Did it give Granny Alzheimer's? You know, let's
Right.
have this talk. What do you think about that approach?
Yeah, no, that's I think that last thing that you said is probably the best approach as far as question what would that look like physically, and then listen to what they say. And then, that's when you bring up, oh, so you mean like this, and you show some pictures or videos, or I don't know if you could do that. Um, I know where I'm at in my region, the way that they slipped it in was because we get really bad hailstorms in the summer. So to protect us from hailstorms, they started doing like small biplanes with the sodium oxide on the biplanes, on the small biplanes. But in that bill, they slipped in the chemical engineering with the big drones and stuff like that. And that's how they got it in there. And nobody read the fine print like they do a good job at. And so they're just like, oh yeah, we want to save our cars and our houses from hail. But I do think that that approach of getting them to answer to pretty much show their hand is a good approach. Like you said, just be like, hey, what would that look like? And then let them answer and then be like, oh, so something like this, things that they're
Yes.
already doing.
Yeah, right. And so it's still a struggle, and we're in a weird paradigm where people have been like uber ultra waking up because of COVID. Like you got 2 years of lockdown, so you go down all these rabbit holes, but still you've got people that you've really got to just talk to like their babies and say, oh, did you read ingredients when you buy your food, or do you know what fluoride is? And not, I mean, I'm not trying to be condescending, but like to play the part of the activist, and it's hard. I'm like, oh, we still are talking about chemtrails, huh? Okay, like I guess we're still there, and I'm the dude. I'm like, or one of the dudes, and it's like the playing field has shifted.
Yeah.
It's no longer a conspiracy theory to say that we're geoengineering. It was. it was a conspiracy word. It was just like chemtrails. Geoengineering was in the same vernacular, and it was just fancier conspiratorial word. Now it's very much not. And
Right.
the UN, the World Economic Forum, is net zero. Oh man, net zero is nuts. They want everybody to reduce their carbon to the point where, I mean, it's really gonna be hard to pull it off in the United States. You know what I see going on is the way that it looks like in the UK and Canada, and they're not even allowed to own firearms. But like all these countries are gonna get all this like forcer, more tyrannical kind of stuff, like 15-minute
Mhm.
cities and all that sort of thing.
Mhm.
And it's gonna slowly creep over here. We're gonna be the last ones to
Oh
like fight.
yeah.
We're gonna be the ones that fight, you
We're
know?
gonna be the ones fighting for sure, bro. We got our
Yeah.
guns still.
Yeah. So I think you're probably near Canada, and I know like Alberta. I was on a show talking to these old timers, and it's public knowledge there in the older generation that the government would engineer hailstorms and not let big hail. They would like know if it was going to hail, and then they would like either seed the storm before it hit the crops, or
Yep.
modify it so it wasn't going to be hail or
Or
was small
move it.
hail, or
It would
move
it would
it.
move it. Yep.
So I live in Southern Oregon, and there's Medford Airport, and they'll literally come and engineer wind to move around fog, because fog will knock out
Mm,
because we're in a valley, and they
yeah.
literally do it all
Rogue
the time. They
Valley.
they announce, yeah,
I was
exactly.
just out there a couple weeks ago.
Oh, cool. So they announce that they're doing it, and they do it, but then like anything aside from that is still in the realm of conspiracy. Like literally, we'll sit there and be like, "Oh no, our reservoirs are empty," but 50 years ago they seeded clouds to fill the reservoirs, but now it's because of the information technocracy and whatever they've done. They've been able to sweep that information under the rug, and now it's actually a conspiracy. It's wild.
Mm. So for people, I'm gonna scream this until the day that I'm 6 feet under or burned up for being cremated. But for people who don't know, the term conspiracy does not mean that it's false. Literally, the definition for conspiracy is just a group of people intentionally planning to do harm. So the oh, what is it? The thing that I like to use, the example I like to use for that is 9/11. Regardless of whether you think that it was Middle Eastern hijackers who crashed those planes into the towers in the Pentagon, or you think it was an inside job by the CIA, regardless of your thoughts on it, that was a conspiracy because a group of people executed and planned to do harm on a mass scale. So that's a conspiracy, regardless of what you think about it. So just like chemtrails and just like geoengineering, that word has been demonized and I can't stand it. So I love to take advantage of that and just put that out there.
No, you're completely right. And I'm glad you talked about 9/11, because I want to talk about that for a second. Um, Let me ask you a question. So, September 11th, 2001, all that stuff went
Mhm,
down.
mhm.
So, for like the 30 days afterwards, how many times do you think you heard the word jet fuel? Just guess.
Oh,
Random.
I can't
Yeah.
even count. It's a lot. It is a lot.
1,000, maybe 1,000.
Oh, sure.
So jet fuel, jet fuel, jet fuel, jet fuel, jet fuel. It was shoved down our throats
Mhm.
while we were traumatized. Okay. This is
Right.
very textbook now that I've learned about. I mean, I was 20 years old, 21, or I was 20 then, and I didn't know about any of this stuff. I was actually bamboozled, and I lived in the DC area. I was worried about everybody then, and my girlfriend was going to Pace University right outside the Twin Towers. I couldn't talk to her, worried about her, Christina. Like I was all up in it.
Right.
I was traumatized when I saw the people jumping out the windows
Oh, I
because they
know.
didn't want to burn up from the jet fuel, jet fuel, jet fuel. I was traumatized. I was traumatized. I cried. I admittedly like shed tears. I was like, the people are dropping dead right in front of me, jumping out of windows. Crazy.
Right.
So now here I am, and I've thought about this a lot. The whole world had that word jammed down their throat. They think it's
Mhm.
so hot that it incinerates, well, a building, evidently, but
Steel
also,
beams,
yeah, planes, people, the plane at the Pentagon's, 2-ton steel
but not
Rolls Royce
passports.
engines. Well, passports are, yeah, right. I get that. They're
perfectly unscathed and rubble.
impenetrable. Yeah.
Yeah.
But everything else, right? And then even the counter narrative: jet fuel can't melt steel beams. Jet
Mhm.
fuel can't do that. But still, it's jet fuel, jet fuel, jet fuel, jet fuel.
Right.
So we got all programmed very much to thinking jet fuel is hella hot. So every time anybody looks at the sky and sees the lines in the sky, they're like, yeah, jet fuel is hella hot. Duh.
Right.
And we've still been programmed,
Condensation trails.
right? It's because it's so hot from the burning
Mhm.
of the jet fuel. But come to find out, those engines are very efficient. Those engines that vaporized and the Pentagon,
Mm.
they're very efficient. They're just creating lift over
Right.
wing, and they're not blasting the hot air that we've been told. Like they're
Mhm.
not. They're just creating lift like a propeller would. But we are like all up in this hot, hot heat, hot thing. We don't even question what we really, we're still in that. And I think it's worth mentioning. Also, I'm to the point where I don't think that there were any planes on that day, and
Mm.
that's like the next level, because like that's really deep down the rabbit hole. But through mind control and this and that, and I mean, there was thermite use. I mean, we can talk about that, but very interesting that I'm coming to find out that like I don't think planes even have that much jet fuel in them, not as much as we're told. Definitely not enough to like melt a building or have all the stuff that happened the way that they say that it did.
Not for a domestic flight. Definitely not.
Yeah, but like even for the big flights, I don't think there's as much jet fuel as they say. I
No,
think
because they
that
don't use that much. Like you said, those propellers lift, so they honestly don't. It's the same thing with like how they keep raising the prices of planes because oh, gas prices. Like they don't even use half the jet fuel that they say they use during flights. So
yep. And then the writing on the wall. Actually, I've been looking at flights. There's this horrible writing on the wall. Every single flight has its CO2 in kilograms, how much carbon emissions you've got.
mhm.
And then it says that there's, oh man, you'd have to see it. So for each flight, it says how much you're attributing to global warming, basically.
Right.
And then it says because of persistent contrails out of the it
It
basically,
mentions contrails.
yeah, on the purchase
Really?
of the ticket, it basically
What?
says that global warming is attributed to chemtrails. So it's like calling out chemtrails as the reason, which is very fascinating because it is. So it's this very classic, like Hegelian dialectic problem, reaction, solution, but they're not telling us the right way. But they create, look, they spray chemtrails.
Right.
Then they blast these things with intersecting radio waves. It was HARP, but now it's all this other tech that's like more local. But it's HARP
Right.
technology. It's you put something in the microwave and there's radio waves intersecting and oscillating the water cells in the food or
Right.
whatever to heat it up. It's intersecting microwaves. I
Mhm.
mean, radio waves, which are
Radio waves. Yep.
microwaves in this instance. In the sky, exact same thing. They spray metal. This is like putting aluminum in the microwave. They spray metal and they superheat the atmosphere to near the temperature of the sun to create high
Wow.
pressure, to steer jet streams, create like big high pressure bubbles to make heat waves, make drought, mess with storms, clash storms, make hurricanes and tornadoes and stuff, or just like mess with the weather or do whatever they do, right? They are, when they do that, they are creating a layer of like the superheated metal. Then the heat gets trapped in from the day, doesn't can't go anywhere like natural processes. Then the next
Right.
day that heat is there from the evening before,
Day
it's still
before.
there. So then they can build on it and make these heat waves. These weird UVs get in and create this greenhouse effect. So it's
Mm.
creating global warming. I don't buy global warming at all. It's
No.
total nonsense. But they're creating heat waves, creating things that they can put the press on and be like, oh, look at this. This happened. You witnessed it. We need to do something about it. It's called geoengineering. It's going to look like this. We're going to dim your sky. And it's going to be exactly what they're doing. And it's exactly the problem. And
Yes.
it's
So
even
all while saying
right
that
there.
this is going to prevent that problem,
Yeah.
they're doing it to prevent it.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Kind of
I'm
like
gonna
big pharma and stuff like that.
exactly. I'm gonna ask you this question. I asked you the same question the last show you were on, but because we are in a different mind a year later, I want to see if your answers changed. Do you think that if they were to stop completely spraying worldwide completely sending radio frequencies from 5G towers and localized towers, that excuse me, Mother Nature would kick back and there would be like super storms for a little bit. You know how like when your body gets sick and it starts to like throw stuff up, it sweats, you know what I mean? Like it reacts adversely. The earth is a living thing. Do you think that that's a possibility?
Um, well, the narrative is if they start, they can't stop. And
Okay.
that's something that they try to claim that if they stop, it'll cause all this impacts. Um, my answer last year and my answer right now is the same, which is if they stop, Mother Nature will pretty much go right back to its normal self.
Mm,
I mean, is Southern Oregon going to get the exact same amount of rainfall? But whatever. I think it'll work. It's like the hydrological process. If you watch what it does and the way that it does its thing, it's a beautiful thing. And
mhm,
the way that the jet stream works. Oh man. So there's this guy, Robert Deutsch on social media, and he follows the jet stream, and you can see they'll put these like aircraft, they'll put these like boats along the jet stream and then literally like blast it with EMF, and the jet stream will get all jacked up, and like they're trying to like push it like north or south. Like watching this go down to like steer jet streams, like blasting it with these like harp fields to like steer this river. Imagine you got this like atmospheric river, but you want to push it
mhm.
so that it's not hitting a certain spot or whatever, because you want to bring drought to Iran or whatever. They're literally like maneuvering these things. But if they didn't do them, they would all just go back to normal. Like it would all like ocean currents, all this beautiful cycle. Like, is the sun gonna stop doing like I think the question you're asking me is the sun gonna stop doing what it does? Because the sun heats up the water. And like if you ever lived on the beach, like June gloom and stuff, like all that is a process because of the sun doing its
Mm,
thing. And that's why they want to mess with the sun so bad. They mess up the process. But if they stop doing it, I think that the natural cycles maybe take a year. I'm not God, but definitely it would go right back to where it needs to be. And they need to stop trying to play God.
right.
straight up,
I
straight up.
agree. And
Yeah.
I like that opinion. Another question. So you're going to these town meetings and stuff like that. Have you ever thought about like I know in each county and stuff like that, like their legislation and rules and laws and stuff are different, but have you ever thought of like putting together like a kind of like a how do you want to say it? Like a speech for dummies to go to these town meetings so that people can go there and just like hit these legislative groups with like just facts and real questions to just like speed up the process and like kind of navigate around the bullshit and just get straight to the point.
People have asked me for that, and
Mm,
it's on my list of things to do, like how to become an activist, and then little like chapter on that, basically,
okay.
like based on certain things. I think it's easy enough to get the fluoride out of your community. Like yes, the answer is yes. I want to have a PDF file, how to become an activist, have a little chapter on fluoride, have a little chapter on cell towers, have a little chapter on your town hall meeting and what you can do and how your voice can be heard. You wouldn't believe how easy it can be to get the freaking fluoride, and then you're a legend, bro. The fluoride out of your community's water supply.
Dude,
And
that is
then
legendary.
now they got to vote again to put it back in. So then some
Mm,
some douchebags got to come along and be your arch nemesis. And then if you're still in your community, then it's like you're bringing up your old points and you're like, hey, and then you can, dude, it's awesome. You're
you're the
like,
guy.
dude, and nobody's gonna like before, like back in the day, the American Dental Administration, ADA, is that what they're called?
Hmm.
Whatever. They would show up and like mess with people. Like they
Right.
didn't, they never really offed anybody that, as far as I've heard, like people trying to label GMOs and GMO activists, like people died so that we could have labeled food. Like you got to remember that.
Wow.
Like activists really are amazing. Like activism's still alive and well, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. But for fluoride, nobody's even going to care. Like a lot of people, they get it in their head. Oh, but if I'm an activist, then they're going to come to my house and because like they hear things like George Norrie or something. Like George Norrie had to back out of his position because I think he was getting threats supposedly.
Right.
That's true story. And was that true? Who knows? But still, like that's nationwide. Like you can get the fluoride out of the water in your community, is what I'm saying. And there's a million reasons why. There's communities that have done it and their teeth are still fine. It costs a lot of money to store it and buy it from China, la ti da. All these studies, no study saying that it's effective, that it does what they're saying. There's not a single study that says that it bonds to your teeth while you're
Right.
drinking it. Like, like people think, oh wait, does it go in your body and then get in your teeth through your tummy? No, they're saying that it sticks to your teeth as you drink that
As you
water.
drink the water, yeah.
Yeah. And there's not a single study saying that it can do it that fast.
Mm.
Like at all. Like there are studies saying that if you put a little thing in the dentist and sit there with it, and then it can do some little bonding thing. But the whole idea of it being in the water and doing what it says, it's never been proven, bro. So it's like,
Ludicrous.
yeah, so it's like it's very easy. There's books, there's documentaries, and there's towns. There's all these lists, and you can go to like fluoridenetwork.org or whatever, and they'll be like, here's the script essentially. So I really wouldn't be like reinventing the wheel, because a lot of communities, and there's still, it's not even like an old thing. Like yesterday, some town did it again, and it's like sometimes they put it to the vote of the little town council, and the 5 people just do it, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they leave it to the people because they can't make a decision or whatever, and then they put it on like the every couple of years they do a thing.
Well,
And
that's
it has to get maybe 1,000 signatures or whatever. Now you're an activist. You stood out front of your
right.
grocery store. You got signatures. You're like, look,
The
rats,
real
rats and
deal.
babies. Like Harvard did a research study, and it showed
Mm-hmm.
that children on fluoride had lower IQs than children not on
Oh
fluoride.
yeah.
Lowers
It's
the
a
IQ of children.
neurotoxin.
It messes with rats. It gives them,
Mm-hmm.
it's very much. And then now you've gotten the ball rolling, and now people are on your side. Now, when they come to get that 5G tower, you're like, no, actually, I've got, you feel good,
And you're
right?
already
Like
a legend, so people aren't gonna
yes,
like. They're not gonna question you.
yeah, and it's baby steps. Like everybody wants to, and this is very important. Everybody and I had this my homie Joey, and this is like so real and important. I got this homie, my friend Joey. He's from, I think he's from New York. I
Mhm.
forget which borough. He's always talking. I don't even remember. It's like he won't shut up. It's funny. He's like a typical New Yorker, and he's my friend from Arcata. And he was like, I really appreciate what you're doing. And I'm like, oh, you want to help? And he's like, why would I help you? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, yo, I want to be the hero, Matt. I don't want to pass out flyers or like
Right.
whatever. He's like, yo, you got the bazooka? You got the bazooka? He's like, yo, MFer. He's like, I'm trying to like sound like him, but not say what he says. He's like, yo, Matt, when you got the bazooka, you hit me up. He says it all the time. And he's
Yeah.
not, he's not even kidding. He's like, I'll shoot down a chemtrail plane, but I'm not gonna pass out flyers and just hope that one day someone wakes up and watches your movie, and then you've got another person on your side. It's like he's not into that. And you know why? It's because Hollywood.
Yeah.
You go and you watch Superman or whoever it is in an hour and a half, they save the freaking world, and
The
they do it.
Expendables.
Yeah, you watch it, they do it in a month or a year or a day, but they do it and buildings fall, and it's like they save it and they do it and they do it up. It's not this like, oh, my children's children are gonna have blue skies
Mm,
because I did these baby steps and da, da, da. But you don't, but that's because you've been programmed. You're not gonna have the courage to even pull the trigger on the bazooka if you didn't get the fluoride out of the water. You know what I
right.
mean? And so it's just like it's a catch 22, and people say they want to help, and I love everybody and everyone's intentions and stuff like that, but it's like, how are you going to play your part? And you can make those waves by doing things that are important. Like there's people that get GMOs banned from their county as well, and that's a thing. And it's like not that hard to vote on. And
Yeah.
honestly, if you learn about Terminator seeds and all this stuff, and I think by your hand gesture, like you live in a rural community, there's probably been bans in your local community on GMO stuff, because
Yeah.
the Terminator seeds are BS. They come onto your
Mm,
land, and then Monsanto can come and take your land and stuff. It's
yeah.
nonsense. So it's
Yeah.
like there's a lot of reason to be like, hey, I want my agricultural community to thrive and not be bought up by big ag and all these sort of things. And so along other things, fracking water, not in my laptida, and like there's other things that you wouldn't believe that you could have an ordinance put into place because of your sweat, because of something you
Mm-hmm.
did, an idea that you had, and you went and pressed it and got a little bit of momentum. And now you've got a council member and now you're running for town council. What's up?
Well,
You know what I mean?
I like your approach on that, and it's baby steps. And you have to play their game at their pace, their way to pretty much get anywhere. So yeah, I like your approach on that. Start small, make a name for yourself, tackle the stuff that's simple, and that'll get you browning points with the people that you need to have your back, and then go from there. I like it.
I came out with Frankenskies in 2017. I wanted to come
Mm-hmm.
out with it in 2015. Those 2 years I thought was like the end of the world to me. When I came out with it in 2017, I was like, I thought I was going to go on tour and everybody was going to be sending me $10,000 checks. I literally had this whole idea of how it was going to go down. Okay. Here we are 7 years later, 6 years later,
Mm-hmm.
and now the movie's getting more momentum. And now people are like, oh, I watched it today. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, you told me to watch it in 2017. And I watched it today. And I'm like, for real? Like,
COVID did wonders for us, bro.
yeah, yeah. And I'm starting to realize like God has a plan, you guys.
Mm.
Okay. Like it's not up to you. Like when people were locked down for 2 years, they had Frankenstein sitting in their queue. Maybe they watched it, maybe they didn't. But literally, like, it's not up to you to think that you can be Superman. You just have to plant these seeds and play your part. And it builds this like momentum. And it's not the way that you think it's going to happen. Like, I swear, I can't believe that people are only now like people in my real world, bro. They're like, yeah, Matt, I heard you made a movie about you. And I'm like, I told you that 5 years ago, bro. They're
5 years.
like, yeah. They're like, yeah. They're like, yeah. What's the link? And I'm supposed
I got time today.
yeah, yeah. And I'm supposed to be like, because like they've been looking up. There's this dude telling them they need to eat crickets.
Mm.
They've been like, there's all these other things in their world that are starting to make them think that it's an actual thing that they need to pay attention to. It's now pressing. And it's like, I didn't just all of a sudden wake up and become this activist or whatever and want to be on, and you wouldn't even want to interview me if I was just rolling out of bed today. Like, I had to, and dude, the guy that made that movie in 2017, the Matt that made that movie before, I was so spun out, dude. I was
Mm.
like we know, like that's why when you say Morgellons, I roll my eyes because I had like a straight year was I was afraid of spider webs. Like I was working on a farm and like if a spider got near me, I would take a shower, bro. I was just like,
Oh yeah, you were deep.
yeah. So it's like and fear is a frequency and it's all a journey, but you got
Mm.
to start. Okay.
I like that.
You want to start a small business, then just do it. And then you'll get some customer feedback and then you'll be doing it. Don't wait. You know what I mean? Like the universe always hates waiters and haters, but like you start to wait and then you stub your toe and then it's like, oh, I have an excuse. And then your car breaks down. And dude, there's always an excuse for
Mm-hmm.
everything. But if there's fluoride in your water, you can do something about it. And it takes time and patience sometimes. But imagine just being able to tell your anybody, man, even like on your first date or your grandchildren, whoever it
Right.
is, you know? And activism is cool. They want you to think someone else is going to do it. They want you to think that like a celebrity is going to do it. They want you to think it's not your place.
Dude,
But anyone,
nobody is coming to save you. It is literally up to us. Nobody's coming to save you.
yeah, that's true. Go to the grocery store and there's like a handful of companies that had the balls to step up and give us organic this and that.
Mm.
But it's like it's people like you, the listener, that actually took that step and was like, I'm gonna honor my ingredients and honor what I put out in the world. You know what I mean? It's like if they didn't do that, it wouldn't even exist. So
Exactly.
so it's up to us to play the part, to be that, to make things happen. And yeah, regarding the no one's gonna save you, you have to like literally, if you just were a cog in a wheel, you'd be in line at Starbucks, you'd be a total unhealthy, like you wouldn't even be listening to this program.
Yep.
Like it's up to you to own your, like I'm getting really spiritual recently. And I think that like
Love it.
our spiritual being wants to incarnate in a vessel but we have to give it something decent. We can't give it
Yeah.
some, like low vibration crap. It won't even be able to reside here. Like our spirit is a high vibration thing that is not in physicality. It's our unphysical self.
Hmm.
Our unphysical self wants to
That's
reside.
why that's why you
Yeah.
see people who are in the NPC mode because it has to like consciously check out because it can't deal with it. So I like that
Yeah.
you brought that up.
Yeah, I think that's a what, like when you keep getting your boosters and stuff like that, and you get your it's basically you're getting your genes altered. It's genetic alteration, and at one point in the future, like with all of the upgrades and all the different mechanisms like cell phones being implanted in your brain and stuff like that, I feel like that we will become so mechanical that the soul won't even know where to go. Like
Hmm.
it'll be like,
It'll
where'd
be
Johnny go?
trapped. Yeah.
Where's Johnny? You know what I'm
So
saying?
so another thing that I wanted to reel back on before we wrap it up here is the dry plants. So we talked about how the chemtrails, the geoengineering ties in with the 5G towers, and they use those frequencies to charge up the particles to manipulate weather. They say it's for other things, but we know what it's for. We kind of laid out the basis for that. But then you have these plants that they're drying out. So not only are they poisoning our food, our waterways, we're breathing this stuff in, but like you talked about, you hit on the forest fires, and you can step in at any time or correct me anytime I'm wrong. But they dry these plants out, and if you've watched any videos on like the volcano ash effect, so basically the planes cannot get enough planes up in the sky to do what they want it to do to get the full effect of what they want it to get. So they resort to something called the volcano effect, where basically, like when a mega volcano goes off, dude, it literally covers like such a big part of the earth with smoke and ashes that it blocks out the sun and creates almost an ice age, like where it cools it down. So not only are they spraying the skies with these airplanes that block out the sun, but they are manipulating the plants to be drier so they become accelerants when they catch on fire. So we can argue till our face turns blue that they're starting the fires, that it happens randomly, but they let it get out of control. Either way, they're using those instances to their advantage too, because it basically creates that volcano effect where it blankets massive amounts of land that they couldn't cover with planes. Have you heard about that or known about that incorporation?
So yes, Mount Pinatubo, they claim, which like whenever science is like, oh, this happened and then this happened, it's like you can't say that Mount Pinatubo lowered global temperatures 2 degrees Celsius. You can't just say that. You weren't around then. There was
Mm,
there was like definitely like smoke and ash in some places, but in other places, like, come on, you can't say that the entire globe, and not to mention, like, I don't even buy the whole, that's a whole other story. You cannot say that the globe went down 2 degrees because of Mount Pinatubo, and then say that we're going to mimic that with chemtrails, and therefore that's science, and we're just going to do this.
right.
Um, that's how they started off with the whole pitch. They're like, we're going to spray sulfuric acid because that's sulfur, just like a volcano. And then they're like, actually, it's going to lead to acid rain and kill a lot of people. We're going to do diamond dust, and actually, it's going to be too expensive. We're going to do mirrors. Actually, mirrors can't float as well as we think. We might have to do aluminum. Oh, yeah, aluminum works really well. They try to like walk us down that little cognitive pathway where that's the most logical explanation to do aerosolized nanoparticulate of aluminum of certain sizes.
Mhm.
It's like they had that plan the whole time. What's crazy is, and the fires are really going to be intense this year because where I live, we're just now getting rain, and we're going to be in a real wild drought election year. Now, when you know that the New World Order controls the elections, and you know that the New World Order controls, or whatever name you want to give it, I'll
Right.
call it the new NWO for now. They control the elections. They control the fires. They control the weather. Looks like that they're going to make 2024 a crazy year with agendas and fires and this and that, and then the election. Okay, so they spray aluminum and barium, and these are the patented things. I mean, it's not even really up for debate, but if you want to debate it, the geoengineering patents call for aluminum and barium sprayed, just like what we're witnessing. It's in the rainwater, it's in our blood, it's in our hair, it's in our soil, it's in the plants.
Mm.
Where is it coming from? It looks like it's coming from the plains. It's very much like you got to be your own scientist and be logical. But at the end of the day, it's not just corollary, it's causal. And when you find out that the high bypass turbofan and jet engines aren't blasting out heat, and then you test, the fallout from rainy days after you see the lines in the sky, and it is the exact same as the geoengineering patents. It's no longer corollary. I mean, they say they're going to do it now, and then they started saying they're going to do it. So then it even became like no out of the realm of theoretical. It is a conspiracy, and it's no longer theoretical. And so, what do these things do to plants? These are patented fire accelerants. So aluminum and barium are fire accelerants. Okay, they make fires go stronger and hotter and burn faster. What does aluminum do to trees? It prevents water being uptook into the roots. So just the aluminum alone makes trees unable to uptake water properly, makes them really dried out and fire prone, all by design. I lived in Humboldt County. It's like forest. For so much time, people are like, why are they just spraying grids over the forest and then going away? It's like, are they trying to get us? Like they're trying to spray the little gnomey people that are living in the woods. I'm like, maybe they're trying to get all the good, righteous grower kind of folk that are like up there in the hills, But then I started really analyzing it. Yeah, they are doing that sometimes, but also I think they're priming these trees year after year, priming these trees year after year to do what? Play this whole scenario out. This land is unlivable. Agenda 2030. You can't live here. It's too fire prone. We're going to have to dim your sky because of global warming, because this heat is too out of control because of these fires. They're making the problem to spoon feed us the solution. Also, aluminum is all embedded in the plants and trees from constantly spraying it. What happens when you put aluminum in the microwave? It sparks all crazy. It gets all hot. It gets hotter and drier and crazy. So you put aluminum in all the plants continuously. Okay, nonstop for decades now, since like let's just say 1990, continuously spraying aluminum, and then you slowly but surely put in cell towers everywhere that are microwaving the crap out of everything, and then you scratch your head when there's fires rampaging through towns,
right?
And like surging smart meters and all these other things. But that aside, it's like you're aluminizing, if that's a word, the trees, and then you're putting cell towers all up in them, microwaving the aluminum, and then there's these out of control fires unlike ever before whipping through towns, and people are scratching their heads. It's not rocket science. It's right there, and it's definition conspiracy, because those evil boogeymen that I talked about in their little think tanks, they got together and they were like, well, we got to remove lead paint because they're going to be able to protect themselves with it if they have it. And we're also going to do this, and we're also going to do that, and we're going to illuminize the trees. It's going to take 30, 40 years, but the Agenda 2030 has a date on it for a reason. We're going to put these towers up. We're going to slowly crank the frequency to the tune. And then once the 5G frequency is turned on, it's a microwave that actually impacts that aluminum, and there's fires everywhere. Nobody's going to know why, and we're going to have to order out of chaos. We'll give them the solution, which is more aluminum. You know what I'm saying?
Usher everybody into the city. 15-minute cities.
Exactly. And then push them into the cities because they can't be around trees, because trees are so freaking flammable now. We don't know what happened.
Exactly. So the sun and the forest are your enemy. Don't forget that.
Yeah, all these natural things that really, when you start to learn about grounding, grounding really quick, electricity wants to find its way out of you. It doesn't want to be bouncing around inside of you. It just doesn't. Like, it just wants to find its way out. So you go touch the wet grass, put your feet in it, touch a tree, touch something that's connected to the earth or whatever, or touch a copper rod that's connected. It all wants to dump out. Electricity does not want to be in you. It wants to be very calm and collected enough for your cells to be all chilled and not fried at like the biorhythm of the earth, which is like 7.8 hertz, Schumann's resonance. Not some crazy all over the place Wi-Fi or cell phones or dirty electricity or whatever. It goes all the way back to Tesla and the AC current and not having dirty electricity and all this nonsense. But literally grounding. This electricity wants to be out of you. The rubber shoes are not doing us any good. And like,
Mm-mm.
if you just made a habit of, and it's like hippie stuff, it's like literally tree hugging, the stuff they demonize.
Dude, it really is.
If you put, you
So
know,
cliche, but it's so true.
it doesn't have to be your feet. It can be your hand. Go
Your
outside at night, put your
forehead.
hand, yeah, put your hand or your head in the wet grass once a night for 5 seconds. Literally relief of inflammation, all these sort of things. Because I'm electrically sensitive, I can start to feel when I'm around my girlfriend's smart TV or whatever too much. And literally grounding takes 5 seconds and it can change your whole life. Highly recommend it. And it's back to understanding the natural world.
So because of how cold it is out here, 8 months out of the year, I can't go outside and ground. So I got the grounding mats for me and my wife. So I sleep on them every night. I'm actually gonna go roll it out when I go to bed here right now, and that's how I sleep on it. So I get all that negatively charged stuff out of my body throughout the night, and in the morning you wake up, you just feel so much better, more rested, all that stuff.
Awesome.
Why don't you tell the people your website again, and let's talk about your EMF clothing again, because I feel that that's very important, especially for this episode, but it's also just an awesome product.
Thanks. And I have grounding pillowcases and grounding mats, and I'm
Oh,
going to be doing
what?
grounding sheets soon.
Oh,
I
I'm
just
gonna have
got
to
these
get some of
king
those.
size grounding sheets, and I sent them to this Instagram friend. But the grounding sheets are coming, and I'm testing them out, and I mean they're awesome. I'm just getting them hyped up for now. And then, but the grounding pillowcases are great because your head touches that thing. It's like,
No, that's awesome. I'm gonna have to get some
yeah,
of those.
yeah. I'd love to send you one. So, did you say tell people where they can find you? What did you say?
Yeah, the website. What's your website?
Oh yeah. So I've got actualactivists
Mm-hmm.
plural.com. Please, people, check it out. It's got a daily truth that you can get a little email, and I won't do anything but email you that. Daily truth. It's just like a daily little blog, like social media, but just one thing a day. Talking about health and things, and anyone can learn anything from that. I try to keep it fresh, and please check it out. Actualactivists.com. I've got a little podcast hub to introduce you to new podcasts, and it's a nice website. That was my baby at first. At first, when I became an activist, I didn't see anybody, everything was so compartmentalized. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't see anybody meshing everything together. And I was like, truth is all inclusive. And I never thought I was going to become like a voice. I thought I'd just be like this guy behind the scenes, maybe directing a movie and maybe hosting a conference, but never like on the stage or on the podcast or whatever. But here I am. So please follow me on Facebook while I have it, Matt Landman. On Instagram, I'm actual_activists. And that's a hilarious place to be, Instagram, because I don't care anymore. They like, okay, so I got shadow banned like crazy. I got no followers for like a year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, whatever. And then they start sending people warnings anytime they want to follow me. Like, are you sure you want to? He's like a, you
Even
know,
tagging you, when I try to tag you, it says it
yeah.
gives me a little warning.
So that made me realize like I don't really care. So I kind of like don't care. And it's worked out pretty well for me over there. So please follow me at actual_activist.com. Like I'm not trying to lose the page, but also sometimes if I see something that I'm like, oh, I'm not going to throw this on my Facebook, I'll put it over there. Because like I do really value the Facebook page. I don't want to lose it. And I've been warned a lot of times. I'm surprised I still have it. So please send me messages over there. Email me at frankenskies@gmail.com. And then frankenskies.com, please check it out. I've got a BitChute channel, Matt Landman. I'm really happy with how that's evolving as well. And then Sparrow Gear. So SPERO is the name of my EMF protection clothing line where I make silver clothing. I've got like 45 items now, from baby t-shirts to baby beanies to baby blankets to grounding stuff to hoodies to king size blankets to headbands to texting
Wow,
gloves.
you've really stepped it up.
Yeah,
Awesome.
texting gloves are the best in the world, and I'm really proud of all of my stuff. It's been quite the journey with the blackout phone bags because the 5G keeps getting cranked up, and so I've been able to witness this and see how much I've had to evolve the product line because the phones are emitting like the 5G is a completely different type of radiation than we were ever exposed to. It's not if I was to quantify it, I wouldn't even be able to. I could say something like 5G is 100 times more radiation than 4G. It's
Mhm.
something like that, 100 times more.
Wow.
But it's also a new form of radiation, one that we've never witnessed before. So when they started to introduce this, it's very clear to me that people were showing symptoms and thinking it was something else. And I don't think that's just my opinion anymore. I'm just saying, like, definitely, it's a thing where radiation had been increased and people were showing symptoms of it and thinking that it was something else. I'll just say that. And so I encourage people to learn more about turning your phone on airplane mode when you go to bed or whatever, just mitigation. I know everyone loves their smartphone, but you don't have to have it all the time. And you can get an EMF meter and learn what you're dealing with. The silver clothing, it ended up, I learned that silver is like an armor. It deflects the radiation, the microwaves from cell phones and cell towers and all that sort of stuff. Also, steel does it as well. I'm working on a steel fabric. In Asia, it's steel or silver for the clothing, especially for pregnancy wear, but it's also men's underwear and all that sort of stuff. The silver's softer, and the steel is not as soft, but they're both really cool. And I want to make like a cool steel jacket. It just
Ooh,
feels
that'd be nice.
like clothing that's been overly starched. It's like cotton, polyester, and steel mixed together. It's literally steel, like woven steel, but it's softer than you'd think. So that's a whole thing. And there's about 20 companies worldwide, and I see myself leading the industry in terms of functionality, affordability, and like looking good and stuff. Yeah, thanks. Like a lot of the stuff is like Asian and doesn't like look very good. Like no one would really rock it. Like they don't really get it. And so I'm trying to brand it and market it and do the dang thing. There's a couple companies, like there's this SLNT. They make these blackout bags, and Joe Rogan just prep like hype them up, and they're one of my competitors in the United States. I believe they're in the States. There's another company called like No Choice, and
Mhm.
they're in like Florida, and they seem to be doing all right. Aside from that, there's not much in the United States at all. So
Yeah.
I encourage people to start an EMF protection clothing line. Like I firmly believe that a rising tide lifts all ships, and I just want the awareness to be there. I'm proud of my competition. I'm proud to be the best. And if they have other things that you guys want to check out, then I encourage you. But I challenge you to find a better texting glove,
There
or a
you
better
go.
hoodie. But the texting gloves are really sweet. You can text in them, and people have like a buzzing in their hands, and they are sensitive, and they aren't when they're wearing these things. And it's the first line of defense from this thing that's like you're absorbing it in your body, you just don't realize it, and all these sort of things. But
That's
you
awesome.
know, it's all activism. The clothing line is a tool for learning. So people get to educate one another and talk about like, oh, I have this shiny silver clothing for this reason. And I started making teen kind of stuff. So I've got kids rocking the stuff. I'm really jazzed about kids rocking the silver beanies and stuff so they can tell their peers, well, cell phones have radiation. And I wear this to protect
Talk,
myself from it. And it starts this conversation,
yeah, talk about planting the seed, bro. That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. So I want to make like cool clothing for kids. That's always been my goal because kids are picky. And if they can have some stuff where they're protecting their hearts and having the conversation with their peers, I mean, it's wild.
Mhm.
So let me just talk to you about this real quick as we end the show. I found this website or this whole like platform that's like convincing kids not to get cell phones until they're 8. It says wait till 8. It's like all this like documentation, all this sort of stuff. Is that for real? Is eight? I thought
That's
that sounds really
crazy.
young, right? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Very
I
young.
was
That's what
like,
I was about
what?
to
And
say.
then
Like, whoa, 8?
yeah, and they're like 7-year-olds, like in the 7-year-olds, but mom, and then I got all this information in
No.
literature for the 7-year-old. And I'm like, yeah, that's nice and all, but I was thinking more like 16. I don't know what the age is now. I
My kid ain't
saw
getting no phone until she's like teens for sure.
Yeah, it's like I watch these financial publications because I used to be really into trading stocks and whatnot. I look at like Wall Street Journal, MarketWatch.com, and whatever. You can kind of get a little taste of what the hell's going on in the world just by like, Northrop
Watching the
Grumman's
markets.
stock and yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
watching the
yeah, I know.
markets. And oh, what were we talking about? Shoot, sorry.
Getting teens the clothing,
Oh, and
cell phones.
in the Wall Street Journal and MarketWatch and Forbes and whatnot, they were talking about like no kidding, like toddlers, like 2 and 3, and like that my friend's toddler has a cell phone, and my 2-year-old is jealous should I get them one just because they're jealous? And it's like, and they're talking about like they don't mention anything about airplane mode or EMF radiation or the kids' reproductive organs or anything. They've even got smart diapers. Oh my gosh, you've seen these smart diapers? Out of
Wow.
control. Smart diaper will give you a text message if the kid urinates and stuff. It's because of the Bluetooth right in their thing right there, bro. It's like,
No. Talk
and it's
about
like,
harming reproductive organs.
yeah, I mean, there will be. So here's the play, bro. To wrap it all together, when these kids can't reproduce, some will, like your
Mhm.
kids, because you're a good dad and bless you. Thank you for being existing. Like seriously, bro. But there's
Appreciate you.
parents, yeah, but there's parents that aren't necessarily as, let's just say that they lack the awareness and the education, and their kids might not be able to reproduce. Those kids will be the ones that are like, I've got to live forever. I've got to become a robot. I'm saving humanity because the headlines tell me that I'm part of this new generation of
Oh
people.
yeah, they're gonna be fully integrated for sure.
Yeah. And it's this fear because it's human nature to be able to reproduce. And it's when you're told that you're no longer human because you can't reproduce, and you can't pass on your seed, and you might as well try to live on forever and maybe like have a clone of yourself, and that's the next best thing or whatever.
Mm,
When millions of people can't reproduce, it'll create this robot society. Like that's how they're gonna trick people, if that makes sense.
yeah,
But yeah,
100%.
but that headline was blowing my mind because yeah, kids are getting phones at a very, very young age. They're not chatting on them, they're just playing games, but they're
Yeah,
like getting
no.
blasted with the 5G and it's silly. I mean, it's just silly. So it's up to us as parents and stepdads and whatever we are out there in the world to honor the truth with integrity and to really see the right, like I think the best first step is, and if you can't do it every day, then just be like Tuesdays, we don't have devices at the dinner table, like
Yeah.
Tuesdays. And then
Set
try to make it,
boundaries.
yeah, try to make it like every day, but like dinners, you check in, no one should be swiping at the dinner table, and that's like the
Mm.
first step. Like no headphones, no devices, like check in at the dinner table. We do this salty sweet or rose thorn. It's like, if you call it salty sweet, it's like what was the worst part of your day and the best part of your day. If you've got siblings, they end up picking on each other, and you can like set some rules and stuff. It's like, no, you can only talk about not that. But it's like, oh, I really didn't like it at school when this happened, and you get to find out, oh, I really liked that this happened. And then you can do salt, rose, thorn, and bud. And bud is something you're looking forward to. But it's really important to create family dynamics and check in with your kids. And dinner or whatever is a good place to do it. And these phones and devices are eroding family
100
dynamics, and it's up to
100%.
us.
We do the at the family dinner table. What's your favorite thing today? And each
That's
one of us
nice.
goes around the table and says our favorite thing for the day. So
Yeah,
I
that's
like
great.
that you
That's a
brought
good
that up.
check-in. Thanks.
Yeah.
It's a great check-in. And you wouldn't believe like things that your kids want to talk about that
Oh
that
yeah.
you wouldn't have heard. And it's really good for kids to like process the day and to go back and remember things. It creates like solid
Mm.
memory bank, and it helps them be grounded and all this sort of things. It's like child developing. It's like it's a 1 day, 1 hour, 1 minute at a time. And it does not necessarily involve you shoving a device in their lap so that they can be the babysitter. A lot of people want to turn to, and I know you want to put on a movie sometime, that's great, whoever you are out there, but also like learn about the flicker rate of the screen and the blue light of the screen. And like, oh my, I started selling blue light glasses, got them right here.
Oh hey.
These are a thing that I'm
Ooh,
doing now for my company, and it's like
those
they're
are stylish too.
25. I do them cheap, and evidently there's like 100% blue light blocking and like 90%, and so I'm going to start selling the 90% one, yellow ones too. But I'm
Awesome.
doing that now. I'm doing that, and they worked out well. I was like, maybe this will work, and I started selling them. The next day they're selling, and I was like, okay, because there's a rising consciousness on how predatory our devices are and all this stuff. We could talk about blue light forever, but it's up to us to shed the light as parents. The kids wouldn't even know about it, and we can do it in a cool way. It's all about meeting them where they're at.
Exactly. Well, hey Matt, I appreciate you coming on again, dude. I look forward to having you on again. I know there's plenty more we could talk about. And I appreciate the work that you do, the groundwork, the clothing, all that stuff, because you're really leading the way to people around you and planting that seed. And sometimes that is the best thing we can do is just get people to take that seed. And then one day they're going to go about and something's going to hit them and they're going to be like, son of a bitch, that Matt guy was right. And that just starts their journey. So that stuff's priceless. I appreciate that. I appreciate your time, man. and I'm looking forward to having you back.
Thank you and bless you. And sometimes the seed is all they're really willing to receive at this point,
Mm.
So for what it's worth. And thank you for doing what you're doing. I love your show and bless you and your family and hang in there with all this weather, bro.
Awesome, man. I'm there, dude, and I'm definitely gonna stay in touch with you, dude.
Cool.
All right, man. You have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
All right, yep.